All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Marathon's Meet the Candidates night. And for those who don't know, my name is Al Cresswell, and I will be your moderator this evening. To begin with, some housekeeping rules. Right off the bat, please ensure that your cell phones are off, on vibrate, or mute, please. Secondly, this is not a debate. This is a Meet the Candidates night. So there's going to be no picking on anybody. There's absolutely going to be no angering, none of that at all. I will not tolerate it, as simple as that. If I find the question offensive, if I find it abusive, if I found it derogatory, I will cut you off. If you persist, I will ask you to leave. And we will hold production basically until you leave. All right? These people up here have the courage to put their names on a ballot, but more importantly, they're your neighbors. So we're going to treat them with respect tonight, as simple as that. Before we start, though, local politicians, they are a close group. They represent their respective communities by attending various conferences together, such as FNOM, NOMA, Thunder Bay District Municipal League, AMO, OGRA, etc. Recently, however, this small little group of people lost two local politicians. Armin Giguère was a councillor in Greenstone. He was very, very important for the young folks and those in Karamat. And Bob Krause passed away a week ago yesterday. A giant of a man, and for many years, he was the mayor of Scriber and a town councillor. Both recently lost their battle with cancer. Before I begin this evening, I ask that we all rise for a moment of silence to remember both Armin and Bob. Thank you. To start, there is no race for mayor. So I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate again His Worship, Rick Dumas, for being acclaimed. Rick said after this evening, he will sing any song you want.
You will want to hear it.
We have 7 of the 8 candidates here this evening seeking the position of town councillor. Councillor Ray Lake is out of town. I mean, way out of town. But in his place this evening, Reverend David Giuliano will read what David's statement is. Thank you so much. Each will be given up to 5 minutes to give a brief bio and tell the story. And then there will be 30 seconds left. That's one of two things. Fish on, or you have 30 seconds to wrap it up. 30 seconds to sort of just get your whole mindset ready, and then I will cut you off at that 5-minute mark, as simple as that. Afterwards, when all 7 candidates have said what they had to say, I will then open the floor to questions. It's a Q&A period for up to 60 minutes. Then afterwards, once everything is done, they will all have 1 minute to summarize what they've said, and that'll wrap it up this evening. Again, voting day, October 22nd. Advance polls, a week from this Wednesday, or rather a week from Thursday, October the 11th, and the following Thursday, October the 18th, from noon to 6, here in Town Council. Are you ready, guys? All right. We picked numbers prior to coming out, and who drew lucky number 1? Candidate Shauna Federic.
Yes, lucky number 1 for sure. First off, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out to probably what's most likely the most intensive job interview I've ever been to or been a part of and likely will ever be. We have some excellent returning candidates that are probably a little more experienced and will be a little more well-spoken than myself. I don't have a lot of experience public speaking here, but I hope I can answer your questions to the best of my ability and really get across my platform and kind of why I'm here. So I'll start telling you a bit about myself. A lot of you know me and a lot of you may not. I've been in Marathon a long time. My family moved here in the late 80s when the mine was booming, and my dad still is employed at Barrick. So I grew up here. I went to high school here. I left town for a while after university, and I lived in Thunder Bay for a while. I moved out to British Columbia all the time, working in the mining industry. And being away from home was hard for me, and I love this town, and that's why we came back. I came back with my husband in 2008, and we wanted to move back here to start a family because Marathon is an amazing community. And anywhere else I've lived is just not compared. So part of the reason why I want to be town councillor is because of my love for the community and just kind of the future I see for it. I don't necessarily agree with the path that has been going forward thus far, especially in regards to economic development. So after having my children, I took a bit of time off work. I went back to school. I took travel and ecotourism because I wanted to get into economic development and help the community develop its tourism infrastructure. We live in an amazing location, kind of nestled between these two beautiful parks, Naze and Pakasa, and we don't have a lot of infrastructure for tourism. And I really felt that firsthand managing some hospitality-related businesses. When tourists would come to town and ask me what there is to do, there really was not a lot for them in terms of activities, unless they ventured out on their own. There's amazing trails, and I don't want to discredit the town. They are doing amazing things with Penn Lake Park and the new Group of 7 trail, and I think these are really important projects. But we are a wine industry town as well, and the sign, the painting behind you on the wall says it all, built on paper, laced with gold. And we've kind of lived in this bubble of prosperity over the last 35 or so years, and even going before that with the pulp mill. And I'll call it like the Hemlo bubble, I guess. And we've been extremely lucky to have such a great economy because of what is just outside the door. And it's coming to an end. And I feel like the timing of council's decision or the town's decision to kind of step back from economic development a bit in removing the position of economic development officer and putting the MEDC on hiatus is not the greatest decision in the times we're facing. We really have to look forward to diversifying our economy, and we need to work on keeping the tax base here. In how many years, I'm not sure what the lifespan of Hemlo is going to be. I believe their most recent closure plan is 2027, but with the new management of Barrick looking for tier 1 only properties, and Hemlo is not a tier 1 property, I feel like they may keep it for a while because it is their only Canadian location, and that probably has certain tax implications for them. So in the short term, maybe we're okay, but once that is gone, they're either going to close it or sell it. We're going to have a large population of unemployed miners in our community. And for tax revenue, this is going to cause issues, I feel. Our quality of life could go down. There's not going to be the same amount of services that are offered now. I'm not concerned about myself. I don't work in Marathon, so because I wanted to get in economic development and that kind of went away here, I work in Pic Mobert as their economic development officer right now. My husband works out of town at a fly-in, fly-out camp. It's not going to affect me personally in terms of my job, but in terms of this community and keeping people here and keeping the services that we have here. I mean, the revenues for the town are based on the income taxes that you pay, and when your property values go down, the taxes are going to go down, and I'm concerned for the future of the town in that aspect, and I really want to be a part of council to help address those concerns. I'm not here because I'm bored and I want something to do. I'm a very busy person. I have a full-time job. I have kids at home. My kids have lives after school. I do figure skating, and you know, I'm busy, and I'm not here because I think the honorarium would be a great, you know, extra car payment. I'm here because I'm passionate about keeping Marathon as prosperous as it is right now. And it was a hard decision for me to make because I am busy, and I had to really think, am I able to take this on? And I truly feel that, gotcha. I feel like that, I'm going to do a great job, and I'm really concerned, and I want to talk to the community and do more community engagement and see what the community wants as well and kind of bring that forward to council. All right, thank you. And good luck to everyone else, thanks.
Thank you very much, Shauna. Up next, candidate Chantal Gingras.
Okay, hello everyone. first want to apologize. I'm just getting over a cold, so if I break out into a coughing fit, I'm sorry. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Chantal Gingras. I was born and raised in Marathon. My family came here also during the mining boom. I am francophone. J'ai étudié à l'école Val-des-Bois et ensuite à l'école secondaire Cité supérieure. Et ensuite, j'ai pris un programme d'immersion à l'Université d'Ottawa. Pendant les derniers 5 ans, j'ai été capable de représenter la ville de Marathon le 25 septembre pour leur jour de franco-ontarien et de célébrer ma francophonie avec environ 15% de notre population qui sont francophones. So my full-time job is working with Contact North. I'm the recruitment officer there, and with that, I get to support students through their education journey. That could be anything from learning literacy skills, so learning how to read or basic math, or learning how to use your new computer or iPhone. And it goes all the way to getting your master's degree. So I'm really in touch with the students coming through my building. I'm very proud of being able to work with that group of people there. Many of you guys know about my new venture, which is taking on the theater as a co-owner with my 2 sisters and my mother. So I'm now part of the business community as well. We've been open for about 6 weeks. We've been able to employ 2 high school students, so I'm pretty proud of that. Hopefully it continues to run as well as it has for our startup. So far I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish there. For my family, again, we didn't take on the theater because we were bored, like Shauna was saying, but it was something we felt was very important. As kids, we had gone to the theater all the time, and when we found out Nancy was retiring, we thought it was such an important part of Marathon to have that recreation there, and to be able to bring, when I was on the museum board, I used to bring in these cultural nights. So to be able to bring these different movies and different ideas into Marathon, we've also talked about bringing French movies to the theater. So I'm looking forward to be able to invite the French community into the theater finally as well. So that's been what's been keeping me the busiest for the last 6 weeks or so. Now I've been on council for the past 5 years now. I feel like I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot in that role. I've been to several conferences and made some decisions for sure some people wouldn't be happy with, some are. Some of the ones I'm most proud of is the event I went to today was the open house for the supportive housing, the grand opening. This council was able to support that project and finally see it open today. I think it was important to be able to have this facility and be able to keep people in a comfortable area in Marathon and keep them here, not have to go to the hospital and not have to leave to another supportive housing, say in Thunder Bay or another city. We want to keep people in Marathon and we want to keep them comfortable. Another thing I'm very proud of since being on council is being part of the LAV3 committee. So we have the LAV3 in town. We've now, as I'm sure many of you have noticed, the cenotaph is now being moved over there as well. We've also managed to get some grant money, which will be able to further expand that park. It will become a veterans park and truly become an important part of Marathon and be able to remember all the people who have served for Canada and who have shown Marathon what they can do. To me, it's very important that we show our respect for them, and I'm happy that I was able to be part of that committee to bring in this LAV3. And my final point was just that tonight you're going to have a chance to ask questions. If there's anything we don't get to tonight or you're not happy with my answer, we can talk about it at any point. My office is at Contact North, like I said. The door is open. Come on over and we can chat further about anything you guys want to talk about. And thank you and good luck to all the candidates.
Thank you, candidate Chantal Gingras. Up next, candidate number 3, Greg Valance.
Is it okay if I stand down? Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Valance. I am 26. I am also born and raised in Marathon. So I have been in the community for 27 short years. During that time, I have gone to school at École Verte des Bois, École Secondaire Cité Supérieure, but I did graduate from Marathon High School. Also, I did go to Niagara College, and I have a background in business. After that, I returned back to Marathon, where I was able to start my career working as a manager with Rumors Coffee House and Deli, and also the manager for the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 183 in town. From there, like Chantal, I had the opportunity to be the recruitment officer for Contact North, so I got to help students with their pathways for post-secondary and what would be a best fit for them moving forward with their career. I was instrumental in the renovation that happened at their old location in the high school, so I'm very proud of my time with Contact North. I would equate my internship with the Marathon Economic Development Corporation as the kickstart to my professional career in Marathon. Within that role, I got to look at different things that we could bring to the community as for economic sustainability and growth, such as bioenergy, tourism, forestry, and all those different kind of sectors that we can look at to grow our economy. Within that role as the intern for MEDC, my proudest accomplishment would be bringing back the Marathon Trade Show. I was spearheading that event for the last few years. We did take a little break for 1 year, but we came back strong last year. Also with the trade show, I spearhead the Marathon and District Chamber of Commerce Business Awards annually. What's so great about these two events is we are able to showcase and highlight the hard work of our local employers and service providers, local and also regionally, I should say. So yeah, loved my time at Marathon Economic Development. I thank the board, Bob Hantro, for really kickstarting my career as a young professional in Marathon. As of now, I actually wear 2 professional hats in the community. I'm an employment advisor for Northwest Employment Works and Confederation College. Within that job, I assist job seekers, strengthening their employability skills, working with them to make sure that they're ready to either re-enter the workforce or look at a different career path, second career, apprenticeships, that kind of stuff. But what I like most from my role as an employment advisor is I get to work with the local and regional business community, look at what kind of skills gap they have within their organization and what kind of training opportunities they need to take their business to the next level. I assist them with the Canada-Ontario Job Grant, again, apprenticeships, signing, retention bonus, and working with youth who face barriers to employment. So I can't talk enough about my role as an employment advisor. I guess I can because I forgot to mention my ties to the First Nation communities and our involvement with the Supercom project. So we were there from the inception of that project, and now to see those clients and past people who walk through our door, finish Tier 2 training, and have all the training necessary to now enter the workforce while that project stalled for a few months is astronomical, and I'm super proud of that project. My second hat in the community, I'm actually a trustee for Superior Greenstone District School Board. So I want to thank Madam Chair Pinky McRae for being such a strong mentor for me. I haven't been in the role for a long time, but what I have learned in the last few months has been life-changing. I've got to go to the Public Education Symposium in Toronto, sit down with the Minister of Education, and it's really taught me how to really look at financial responsibility and knowing your role, sticking to your role, keeping your head down and focusing at the job at hand. Also, it teaches you of the importance of education within the community. Having a French elementary, French high school, a Catholic school, the high school, all the different type of education opportunities we have in the community is wonderful. That's a little bit of my resume. The few boards I sit on in town, I am a director for Victim Services. I'm also a director right now for Marathon Economic Development Corporation. I'm the president of the Marathon and District Chamber of Commerce, and I was recently asked to sit on parent council for the Marathon High School. Recently, I won the Young Professional Award from the Business Awards from the Marathon District Chamber of Commerce, and I was recognized as the Young Professional for the month of November 2017 from the Ontario Young Professionals Network. My platform right quick, the 4 key things I'd like to talk about would be economic sustainability, in-youth migration, the importance of healthcare and
Greg?
education in our community,
You
and
got-
our civic engagement.
There
Thank
you go. Greg Valance. Up next, candidate number 4, David Lowndes.
Hello, I'm Dave Lowndes. I've been in the community here. I'm pretty sure I moved here in 1972, so it's been a while. I've been raised. My whole family was raised here. Now I have children, and they're raising their children here. We've all stayed in town. I've worked for the community for 34 years. I've seen the town do its ups and downs and all this, and I just figured it was time that maybe I'd give it a little bit of a try and come forward, and I'll try to do my best for the town for maybe not 34 years, but I mean for a term. I'd like to see some bylaw changes. I'd like to see skidoos and ATVs be opened up a little wee bit more in town, like some of the other small towns around our area. The vehicles are all licensed and insured, and they have to do all the road things, so they should be allowed. I would say that our people can use them. You pay enough for them. One of our big things is you always hear council always wanting the big business. They're always going for the big 100, 200, 300 people. What about the 5, 10 people businesses? Let's have a whole bunch of smaller businesses. You go to a lot of the other little towns, that's what's supporting a lot of your little towns, is just having small businesses. We should have economical development here and help them a little bit more, and let's try to get more small businesses in town. Like in Marathon, we are supposed to be the hub of the north here, and it is hard to buy a lot of things in Marathon. You have to go to Thunder Bay to buy a pair of socks. You know, it's you got the bargain store, or we need more little businesses. They all don't have to be 300 people or plus. I'd like to see some more infrastructure work, like the old side of town. The pavements are getting in very bad shape. Water and sewer, that's was what I did for the town. So I know the infrastructure is getting older and depleting. Before we end up with the mines closing, and here we are down to almost no industry or no financial. Instead of building 10, 15, $20 million buildings, maybe we should have our town that it'll sustain itself when our tax bases start dying on us, that we can, the people that are going to be staying here, like a lot of people love Marathon, they fly from here to go to work. So even if the mines did close, you're still going to have a lot of people want to stay in Marathon. So let's have a town that's worth staying in, and let's not spend all our money on everything, and then when times really get tough, we have no money left. I would like to see our taxes stay at a minimum. They've been doing very good, and let's curb spending as much as we can to only what's really necessary, and let's keep everything down. And if you could go a year with no tax increase, would be a really nice bonus for everything else. And I'd like to see waterfront development and heavier into tourism. Like I have a small business in town, and I drive in and out of town every day. And there's so many days you drive along the Hydro straight stretch coming into town, and you see a car towing a trailer doing the turnaround at Hydro, because they've turned off the road and they've come up on top of the hill, and they just, where am I? What's here? And they just turn around, they go right back out of town. We should have something letting people know there is life just over the next crest of the hill, that they can come into town. Like everybody that comes into town, if they all spent $1, we'd be a little bit better off in our business. Okay, and If anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to talk to me about anytime, I'm always around, and most people know where they can find me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Candidate Lowndes. Up next, Candidate Kelly Tabushi.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for coming out tonight and to hear what the candidates have planned for the next 4 years. I've had the privilege of serving on Marathon Town Council for the past 21 years, and hopefully I will continue in that capacity. In the next 4 years, Marathon may face some trying times, and I believe that experience and leadership will be important in the council chambers. I ran in 1997 because I believed that the council at the time had not managed the growth that occurred during that time. The Ray government was going to be defeated in the next election, and I knew change was coming. With the new Conservative government of Mike Harris and the Common Sense Revolution, I knew it was not going to be good for municipal governments. When asked by my cousin, David Tunabuchi, why I ran, I told him it was because of his government. I again see the possibility of downloading costs onto the municipalities. I again see the opportunity for provincial governments to balance their books on the backs of communities. It took 12 years to reverse the downloading that occurred under Mike Harris's government, and I am worried that history will repeat itself. The burden of social services should not be on property taxes. Property taxes should be for the services you receive from your town. Tax increases unfairly burden small businesses, retail, and apartments because their assessed value greatly surpasses that of home owners. Tax increases to this sector sometimes are as much as 10 times that of residential increases. Marathon needs small businesses to provide jobs. I propose re-examining fees and charges so water, sewer, garbage, recycling, and recreational costs are shared equally among users, not based on taxation. I find it odd that we pay less for water than we do for our cell and cable services. To offset this, I propose freezing or reducing property taxes. Shift revenues from property taxes to user fees. And I agree, it is sometimes another form of taxation. Some may not choose to pay their taxes. It takes us 2 years to register a property. It takes us, plus the time it needs to fall in arrears, plus the time the owner has the opportunity to repay. If water bill is in arrears, we can shut it off immediately. I propose a garbage bag fee that entitled each household to 1 bag per week. Any additional bags would require a bag tag. I am appalled we live in a community where there is garbage in the bush because of a $2 bag tag. I propose an annual recreation fee to offset, and to offset this, I propose a 2-tier membership and user fees. One cost for those who have an annual family recreation charge and one for those without. Annual recreation fee will go towards funding long-term recreational projects and/or future renovations to our current rec center. I propose we plan for a new rec center, but do not proceed unless we can truly afford it and get, at the very least, funding from federal and provincial governments. If we do not proceed with a new rec center, we will have to upgrade and renovate what we have. I would also like to revisit the proposed site of the new rec center. An investment of this magnitude should be the center of any long-term plans for revitalization, or at least the centerpiece for future town planning. Hopefully, the mines will continue, but we must plan for the possibility of closure. It will be my main focus in the next council to develop the former mine site, or mill site, sorry. The site has all the necessary assets for economic development. Highway, rail, water access, high-speed fiber optic cable, all are within easy reach of that site. I will lobby all governments and owners of the fiber optic cable to provide this access in Marathon. The cable literally runs through Marathon, and access to this technology is vital for future economic growth and development. Sorry, but Marathon will never be a tourist destination of the scale that will be needed to sustain us. But we can be a waypoint between Thunder Bay and Sault Ste. Marie. Everyone needs a pee break during an 8-hour drive. Marathon can be a retail and health center of the North Shore. Marathon can be a logistics center to the North Shore. In my other job, we bring cheer to Rossport to Wawa. That is what economic development should concentrate on. Experience and knowledge of how government works and what is needed in the next 4 years. And I truly believe I can bring that to it. So I ask for your support and vote for Tabuchi.
Thank you, candidate Tabuchi. Up next, candidate Darlene Cross.
Hi everybody, how's it going? I am Darlene Cross, and to tell you a bit about myself, by trade I am an engineer, and I have been actively living in Marathon for 11 years. And I emphasize actively because I'm right into sports participation, and I also volunteer for the fire department and the animal shelter here. As for the town, I see 3 key issues. We're looking at economics. We want jobs. We want financial growth. We want to sustain our standard of living. Then we look at safety, day or night, young or old. Moreover, we want safety. Moreover, we want a medical system that allows us to stay here and grow old. Thirdly, issue would be recreation. We want fun, an attractive, a clean place to live. We want stuff to do. We want to have our spot on the map that people will want to visit us and to stay with us. At the moment, Marathon has no dire issues, but the challenge for you is, or for us, council, is in keeping it that way. Thus, residents need a council that has discipline, that has passion, and that functions well together, because this is a team effort, and to pave the way for opportunities that are going to come and make them happen. As my mother used to say, taking my arm firmly and opening the front door, there are opportunities walking by every day. You just have to see them. For example, we have that big, beautiful lake out there. And economically, recreationally, safety-wise, I'm thinking fishing. I'm thinking a naval unit. I'm thinking a breakwater for the marina. Think about all our trails that run through our town, all the other facilities that we have in town. Have you been to all of them? Have you seen all of them? Do we need to improve signage so that people coming to visit, or even ourselves, know where they are? Moreover, we have those things in our hand, those little electronic devices called cell phones. So online, everyone's online. We peruse online, we research online, we shop online. So I'm thinking, how about, if it's possible, a town-wide access to Wi-Fi? Or maybe an app, a Marathon app for stores and recreation, so we would know what's going on. Yeah, I have motivation, I have dedication, and I'm a team player. So vote Cross for Town Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Cross. Up next, number 7, candidate Chris Skorchinski.
Thank you, Al. Good evening, everybody, and thank you to those who have shown up tonight. Thank you to Al for offering to host tonight. Thank you to all the other candidates for putting your name forward. That is a big step on its own. I've been told that several times by people. And more than anything, thank you to the 8 of you for seeing a future in this town and being willing to go and grab that. So a little bit about myself. Much like some of the other candidates, I'm born and raised in Marathon, going on 40 years of it now, which is kind of scary to think about. But much like a couple of the other people around the table, I've seen the ups and the downs. I've seen the times where we've been going really, really strong. I've also seen the times where maybe it wasn't so strong. But the people of this town have that resilience in them, and we always seem to bounce back from it. And I like to see myself as the town of Marathon wrapped up into myself. I'm an absolute go-getter. Anybody who knows me at all knows that I sit on pretty much any recreation-based council that you can find in this community. I think it is the lifeblood of our community. Ever since I was a kid, people could be found all over the rec center. They could be found all over Dyer's Field. You drive by anything in town that's considered a facility, and it's full of kids. And that's a big reason why I chose to come back to town. I came back at a time where things maybe weren't as strong as they could be, but I did see that future focus. I did see the possibility for some success. And that's a big reason why I've chosen to settle here and to start a family here. I was raised by two phenomenal parents who instilled all that in me. And it's something that I hope that I can instill into my family and into all of our community members, that this is a place to stay, it is a place to grow old. Much like Chantel, I was able to attend the opening of Peninsula Manor today. And we've got these great facilities now for people that don't want to leave. So they have every opportunity to stay now. In terms of my resume myself, as I mentioned, there are a number of things that I've done in my time that I've been back in Marathon. I've been here for about 7 or 8 years now. I am a teacher up at Margaret Toomey, so that alone gives me an interesting perspective that not everybody else that's a candidate has. I get to see the youth on a daily basis, but I also get to interact on a daily basis with town facilities, their operators. I get to interact with our local Aboriginal communities, our Francophone community. A lot of those connections that get made on an educational level that don't quite get to get made maybe on some other levels like economics and things like that. Outside of that, if you're asking me where is my focus, as I said, I think it's recreation for me. And not just recreation, but taking it down the cultural road as well. A big part of that reason why is why I set myself on the museum board now. I am the youngest by a significant margin. But I think it's that kind of go ahead and be a part of that we need in this community. We have an aging population that have done such a great job with some of these things that we have in our community, and we now need to have that second tier of people below that. I absolutely appreciate the names that are on the wall on these plaques that have come before us, but I do think it's time for a new generation to step forward. We have new ideas, much like I hear Greg talk about at a lot of the events that their group puts on, that's where the vibrant community is coming from now. It's the younger people that can bring those ideas and that can allow the older people to feel some of that same excitement that the younger generation can bring. So just quickly, I'm not one of those people who likes to rhyme off a resume of things that I do, but there are some things I'm quite proud of that I've been a part of. Back about 7 or 8 years ago, I sat in that chair right there and begged and pleaded this council to bring the summer ice back to Marathon. And thankfully, we were able to do that, which I think now is a staple of our community. We talk about economic development, the positive spin-offs that's happening. We've got the hockey school now here. All these different communities that now can access that essentially year-round outside of a couple of months. So that's one thing I'm very, very proud of. One of my new passions has become the Heroes in Hockey Classic, which we started last year, which is a hockey tournament, so don't blame me for that. But more than anything, we've taken it as a way to honor the veterans that have come from our community, and to raise some money for the Legion branch. I drive by it every day, and I'm saddened to see the shape that some of our buildings are in. So to see our money go towards that cause, to see people like Billy Jim Carmen who are willing to put the money into the building that he has, and all these little things that show that people see a future for this community. They're not going to sink those kinds of money and that kind of effort into something that's not going to see itself through to fruition. So if you do elect me for your council, you can certainly see things around Parks and Rec, things around culture, whether it be the arts, whether it be our Aboriginal community, whether it be our seniors, taking all those cultural aspects and tying those back to Marathon.
All right, Chris.
And seeing room for change. Vote for Skorczynski. Hard to say.
Skorczynski! Thank you very much, candidate Skorczynski. Candidate Ray Lake is not in town. In his place this evening, Reverend David Giuliano will read candidate Lake's statement. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's David Giuliano, and I'm not running for council. Tried that once, didn't work out. I do have a statement that Ray sent to me from France today, and I guess I would just like to say that it's a real honor to speak on Councillor and candidate Lake's behalf to read his statement. And to add that I think the fact that he isn't here tonight is unfortunate, but it also indicates a worldview that he would bring to the work of council and probably has been bringing. So from Ray, I'd like to begin by saying how grateful I am to be participating in this event, even though it's through another person. He didn't name that person because it was supposed to be Ellie, and Ellie's coaching volleyball tonight. So, my family and I have been planning this travel for the last 3 years, and while I'm saddened to miss this event, I am as committed as ever to the idea that it is important to see the world and grow as a family. However, I believe my record over the 12 years on council can stand for itself. Over that time, Marathon has seen many changes, but town council has remained positive and progressive. The need to remain positive and progressive is clear, as there are challenges coming that must shape our decision making. And Ray identifies 4 in particular. First, Peninsula Harbor. Aside from gold, our harbor is the greatest opportunity for meaningful economic development. Administration and council have worked hard to put us in a position to market our harbor. Creating jobs at Peninsula Harbor and diversifying our economy is my priority over the next term of council. Second is community living, the Community Living Center. As the chair of the Senior Supportive Housing Committee, we showed that, quote, made in Marathon solutions can work. I would commit to the same process as we pursue a new recreation facility. Providing that the project makes economic sense for our community, I am committed to pursuing meaningful recreation opportunities for our children. Building partnerships, number 3. One of the greatest successes of this council, that this council has enjoyed, is continued growth in our relationship with Indigenous partners. I'm committed to this relationship building. A respectful and positive relationship is necessary as we live together. And 4, social change. Every community in Canada will be expected to manage the legalization of marijuana over the next few years. Although there are many personal beliefs about its use, it is council's job to ensure that a reasoned approach to legalization is taken. Again, I believe my record indicates that I have an ability to listen effectively, compromise when necessary, and be part of coming to a positive and progressive solution. Again, I'd like to thank the Candidates Night organizers for allowing me to address the audience and the other candidates. It is wonderful to see so many candidates running, and although I would ask you to re-elect me on October 22nd, I'd like to thank all the candidates for putting their names forward to serve the community. And that's the end of Ray Lake's statement. I hope you'll vote for Ray. I will be.
Thank you very much. Thanks again, Reverend Giuliano, for that. And again, first of all, I want to say congratulations to all of you this evening. Job well done. You all kept it in. Kelly, you were close. Skrzynski, you were close. So what we're going to do is we're at this point now where we're going to have a Q&A, a question and answer period. I will ask the first question. This one is addressed to all candidates in the same order that we just talked about.
I just wanted to say I'm going to excuse myself. I don't feel that I can answer questions.
You should answer his questions. Thanks again. David Giuliano, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so this is again addressed to all the candidates this evening, and it's a topic that was touched upon earlier by candidate Tsubushi. What is your opinion about the proposed active living center? Does Marathon need a new facility? And if so, where should it be built? At the end of Stevens Avenue, the site of the old public school, or perhaps even the site of the DH Foods Mall, which is now vacant? This is addressed to all candidates. Shauna, candidate Fedoruk, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I do feel that Marathon needs a new facility, whether it's feasible or not, with the prospective future we're facing. Perhaps more needs to be looked into in that way. But yes, if it's not feasible to do it, if we don't think that there's the money there, then upgrades to the old one are definitely necessary. It's constantly in and out of operation for a lot of things, especially the pool. And a lot of the community members rely on that center, and it is a hub of the community. Second part of the question, where would I like the location? Personally, I'd love it at the end of Stevens. It's close to my house. My kids can walk there when they're old enough. But no, I do think downtown is a better choice for the community as a whole. It is a central location. Where it is now is the perfect location, and I was kind of saddened to see the choices of locations when they did the survey a while ago. Again, for my own personal reasons, I liked it where it was kind of chosen, but I do agree that the DH
Okay.
Foods Mall is a better
All right.
location. Did I answer? There's two parts to the question?
Perfect.
Okay.
Candidate Gingras?
Yeah, I agree that it is a facility that's needed. The plans are starting to be put in place, and as Councillor Tabushi and Shauna have both mentioned, it's important that we get these plans in place, but if there's not funding, I don't think the town of Marathon can go forward with it on our own. It's important to get that funding as well. As for the location, I'm happy to revisit the location and look at other options. The issue I find with the DH Foods location, to be able to build the new recreation complex would mean tearing down the complex that is already there to do that build, which means we would be without a recreation complex for a period of whatever that construction period is. I'm not sure personally I'm ready to give up a recreation complex for the construction time. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Candidate Valance?
Perfect, Al. Okay, so I think the first thing we need to look at when we talk about the new rec center is really the economic stability or sustainability of the community and needing an industry so people come in to use the rec complex. I think we would look at the funding versus need. What is the shelf life of the current building? And really, when it comes to location, we would have to outweigh the pros versus the cons. Ideally, the pro to having the new rec complex built in central Marathon, where the current location is now, would be great for a central hub and for the business community. But the cons would be, like Chantal said, what would happen to our current clubs, the Silver Pikes, Marathon Figure Skating Club, the theater, all those clubs who are in operation right now, while that building is then torn down and one is erected to, the new building is being erected, they would be decimated for a good probably year to 2 years. Also the cost that it would take not only to tear down those two buildings, but to build on top of them, especially if we look at asbestos being in potentially the DH Foods Mall, that will add to an additional cost. And when it comes to the location at Stevens, I think the biggest thing would be accessibility. It being all the way at the other end of town, would we be opening the one road all the way down by Poplar? What would that look like for our children getting to the rec center itself?
Thank you so much. Candidate David Lowndes?
Thanks, Al. I could see maybe a new facility if we could afford it and it was really necessary. And the site of the old Tomboy Mall or DH, whatever, you could end up removing that building and building a complete new complex while your other complex is still in running. And you could end up having it all done. But on the other hand, why lose a facility where we could have economical growth, maybe try to find people to get into that building and get that building done up and maybe get more jobs. The end of Stevens Avenue isn't the end of the world all the way down there. And like you said, open up the other crossing at Poplar. You got your two main drags that go to the building. It isn't that it's, and also people might see more of our town instead of just driving in the main street, stopping and turning and driving back out. Now you get to see everything in town and you get to know the town maybe a little better.
Thank you so much. Next we have candidate Kelly Tabushi.
As stated, I really think we need to look long and hard on the affordability of it. I think the number one thing, one of the reasons why I proposed a annual rec fee is I think that will demonstrate to the level of other levels of government the commitment of the community behind a project of that magnitude. We are talking in excess of $30+ million, and I think for us to not be that, make that facility the center of any development or economic development or prosperity around it would be short-sighted. it's going to be the center of our town, or people, and it's the reason why a lot of people come into town. And I think we need to look long and hard about the central or the location. There are some sites that would be favorable. I know that one of the proposed clearings there by the golf course was for a driving range, but that land's been cleared and is accessible. We have access along Hemlow Drive that we explored. The main thing, though, is I truly believe that when you have a project of that magnitude, it's going to be the center of development around it. And that's what we need to look for. Again, if we have the waterfront property now that's available, we have other locations that are available. I just think to put it at the end of Stevens Avenue, although it's serviced, does not provide for future development around it. And I think that's the reason why we look at it. So.
Thank you very much, candidate Tabushi. Up next, candidate Darlene Cross.
Hello. I'm rather excited. Oh, my bad. I'm rather excited by updating our living center, getting a new recreational center, and I think right now it's just strictly planning, and so everything's very democratic. Right now we can afford not to have it, but at some point we're going to need to have something new, and so next is. It's a question of determining when that time's going to come. Now, where? Well, yeah, DH Foods or the end of Stevens, or we can come up with a few other ideas. But that's something that can be decided upon when the time comes. I rather fancy the idea of the end of Stevens just because that portion of town is often ignored, and it's right near the lake and the Legion. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidate Cross. Up next, candidate Skorczynski.
Loaded question for me because I'm a hockey guy. In a word, yes. I've seen the deterioration of that building over the last 15 or 20 years, and I think it's more than overdue. More than that, I think we need to look again at what purpose that building serves for our community. It's more than just a rec facility. But in terms of location, I would agree with a couple of the other candidates that there are some other options that I think are out there that council would need to look into. I'm not sure if Stevens is the answer. I think one big thing that's being overlooked so far, though, is the need for an outside space to be a part of that facility. We've got a lot of kids who access the skate park. We have kids who play soccer, who play baseball, just for beautification purposes, for future development. I think having some sort of an outdoor space tied to that, I think, is key. But if I could quickly just reference back to when I sat and looked at Summer Ice, we talk about cost analysis versus benefits to the community. That wasn't realized initially, but I would think most people would agree now that to do away with Summer Ice would be a real disservice to our community. And I think we would see the same thing if we weren't to bring in a new rec facility down the road as well.
Thank you very much, candidate Skorczynski. All right, the floor is open. If you have a question, just stand up and say your name and ask the question. If the question is to any particular candidate, just state this is for candidate so-and-so. Then at that time, that candidate can actually pass it on to someone else, and all would have a chance to answer that question. So, without further ado, Rick.
Thank you very much. I just got a question in general for all the candidates tonight. Nobody really talked about infrastructure. Big part of our community is infrastructure. We spent $30 million in the last 10, 15 years on infrastructure that nobody sees. It's not the pretty above ground stuff. It's the underground pipes and sewage and water to our homes, to our businesses. Do you support a local improvement tax to continue the infrastructure work that we need to do in our community?
Good question. We'll do it in the same order, if you don't mind. Candidate Fedoruk, please.
Okay, I don't really know how to answer that right now. Again, I'm not privy to kind of what's been going on in council. I don't have a strong background in taxes, let's say.
Can I just clarify for the non-members of council? Local improvement tax is basically a tax that's applied to the neighborhood that's getting the work done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I would say is that I'm not the kind of person that's going to say yes or no and just give you my opinion. I'd have to research it, look at the pros and cons, and possibly get community input. A decision like that could involve a lot of community engagement, or what are your thoughts, and education, educating the community on this is why we need this money, this is why we got to put this tax on this, and just show people the reasoning behind it, what is needed. Yes, you can't see it, it's underground. This is what you get if we do this. This is the benefit to your community, and I think you need to get the support of the community in that way. Offhand, I don't know a lot about the underground infrastructure, so, but that's how I would approach it.
Candidate Gingras?
So I've thought a lot about this and how to bring up infrastructure, and I personally still haven't come up if that's the best way to do it. So far we've been doing kind of projects as they come up and slowly going around town and doing the projects that are most needed, which I'm happy with doing. The issue I find with doing the taxes, the localized taxes, is then you're taxing a higher rate to that area, and eventually slowly the whole community is going to need that infrastructure anyways. So the older side of town might need it sooner, but eventually everywhere is going to need it anyways. So.
Candidate Valance?
All right, so at the start of my campaign, I decided I was going to sit down. So I've read the asset management plan. I've obviously no expert, but I do know a little bit about the infrastructure report card, the 5 networks, the assets within the network, and that most of these networks do currently have a deficit and or primarily have a failing grade for infrastructure. So obviously when push comes to shove, I'd have to do a little bit more research. But as it stands right now, I do believe I would be leaning towards supporting the idea, yes.
Candidate Lowndes?
Could you just clarify something you were saying? Tax the area that's going to be worked on?
So the local improvement tax is basically taxing, if you did the street in Aspendale,
Okay.
you were going to do the plumbing on Aspendale, you would apply a tax to the residents of Aspendale. They would see the benefit. Nobody else would see that benefit if you're only doing Aspendale.
I don't think that is a very good idea, because every street and every water pipe that you actually change in town fixes everybody's water. If you have pipes on the old side of town that are starting to get bacterial growth and all that kind of stuff in them, if you don't change them, the people with the brand new pipes on Hemlow, they're going to get that same water. It's going through everybody's pipes. It all gets mixed up. It all goes to so when a pipe needs changed, it's the whole town's problem. So the whole town should be doing it. Maybe we should be looking at tightening up the budget somewhere else and putting more money straight to the infrastructure instead of spending on different projects that have gone on where they've put a little bit of money into it, but they should have put more money into the other project. Because the water pipes in the ground is not, like the pipe in front of my house is not just my problem. That pipe in front of my house is the problem down the street at your house, is the problem down the street at your house, because the water goes through and it's all connected and it's all one person's water.
Thank you. Candidate Tabushi?
In the past 20 years, I guess, I've been a proponent for local area improvement levies. I feel that if you're getting the benefit of revamping your street, a surcharge can go onto or should go onto yours. Believe me, it won't cover the whole cost, but it will offset the cost of doing that project. It will also, and again, if I remember correctly on the area improvement, it will go to those residents and say, we are planning this project, do you want to support it or not? So if the project is no, if the majority of people on that street decide they don't want it, so be it, it doesn't get done. It provides the residents a choice on how we spend our money, if they're willing to support the project. And I think that's important on a message to council on what the priorities are for the town. So yes, I would support it.
Candidate Cross?
I keep forgetting to do that. I'm all for a local improvement tax, but not the way, not for like individuals living on individual streets, because I think it's going to create almost a double standard, because you're going to get some streets that aren't going to want these improvements because they don't want to pay for it. So then we end up with on the other side of the tracks kind of, on the wrong side of the tracks kind of scenario. I think that any kind of improvement for the town should be absorbed and paid by all the members of the town, since as Dave mentioned eloquently, that we all benefit from a good street, a good piping, no matter what town it's on. All I could say, if we are going to go ahead with an improvement tax, is to be very honest where that improvement's going, so that everyone knows, so that they're going to get their chance soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Skorczynski?
Rick, I'd like to say that I'd be a yes, but as a first-time homeowner and having lived here for 38 years, that's the first I've ever heard of that. So that would be first on my plate, is I'd want to make sure that our homeowners knew about this, especially if they're new to our community, that this is something that our council's going to look at, and this is something our town's going to look at. I'd also want to weigh out the advantages and disadvantages of continual upkeep of our infrastructure systems, as opposed to some of the more major projects that might, as Dave said, benefit the whole of the community, instead of doing smaller projects year after year after year. And I'd also worry a little bit about the residents that are on the older side of town versus the newer side of town. Are they going to be forced to be taxed more often, because in reality their section of town is probably going to require more upkeep than people in, say, Penn Lake may need? So I think there's some things I would want ironed out before I could say a definite yes, but it's certainly something that I would want to consider.
Thank you, Candidate Skorczynski. Another question. Yes, Ms. McRae.
Good evening. My name is Pinky McRae, and this question is for all the members here tonight. So I too am an employment advisor for Northwest Employment Works, and I just want to bring to your attention that for the past 6 to 8 months, we've actually been in a situation where we have more jobs than people to fill them. And the reason for that is many of our clients that we see coming through the door face multiple barriers. So my question to you would be, what would you as a council member do to assist us in helping these clients that are coming through our door, who are unemployable for many different reasons, who face many different barriers? How would you help us in assisting those clients to be able to bring them up to where they need to be gainfully employed and living a better life in Marathon?
Did you guys get that?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. All right, same order. Candidate Fedoruk.
It's fun always going first. Thank you, Peggy. It's a really great question, and it's something I deal with on a daily basis in my job as Economic Development Officer in a First Nation. Part of my job is to prosper the economy of the community, but I say I'd spend 90% of my time assisting employers and employees with their barriers. And working in a First Nation, the employment barriers are so much more profound than you can imagine working in Marathon. And I know a lot of the community members that you're trying to employ face a lot of the same barriers, and they are First Nations clients. So I fully support any effort that you do in order to help people and employers overcome the barriers. I think certain tools such as OLMP agreements, the Ontario Labour Market Partnerships are great. And that's kind of a proactive approach with the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities, where you can develop kind of an analysis of your employment market, the employment market needs. So I would definitely support any kind of research done in that way, any kind of funding you applied for, and look at our budget and where we could help as well. But again, I have a lot of experience in that, and I definitely know it is a huge issue, not just for people trying to find work, but for employers trying to find employees. And there's so many different issues, and they all have to kind of be looked at individually.
Thank you very much. Candidate Gingras.
So I work with a lot of these people through Contact North as well. And one of the programs we're running currently in Pickmobert, just started yesterday, is called the First Steps program. So what these students are doing is basically for the week they're showing up. They go from, believe it's 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. every day, and learning about time management, goal setting, and just how to work through. They've got a live teacher there with them, so it's just about how to build some of those skills that are needed. as part of council, I'm open to working with new or with employers on how to move forward and help people find employability. And yeah, I'm happy to work with you guys on anything to be helpful.
Thank you very much. Candidate Valance.
Perfect. Well, as you all are aware, I am too an employment advisor, so this is a great question. This is my wheelhouse that I do 9 to 5. I think the biggest thing that we can look at is looking at a partnership with our post-secondary education institutions here, Confederation College, Contact North, looking at working with their workforce development departments and creating kind of a skills training program for those people who face those barriers, kind of like Supercom, but working with those people who face housing, no income, LGBT, socially marginalized, mental health barriers that would have a roadblock to employment. One thing too that I'm super passionate about, and I think I've said it before, is in-youth migration, bringing in those young professionals who will start a young family in the community, who will look at entrepreneurship. Many friends of mine right now have come to the community, have started, are registered massage therapists, estheticians, chiropractors, that kind of stuff, and having those ones who are born and raised return back to the community and bring those people who they've either met in the city at post-secondary, come back, start a family, so that ideally moving forward we will have, like Pinky says, we have jobs, we don't have bodies, we need people who will look to fill those entry-level customer service, retail, hospitality and service roles. So
Thank you very much. Candidate Lowndes.
I'm not really too up on hiring or not hiring, but I would say if we have a lot of people out there that don't have any qualifications in that, maybe we should be trying to find places or services that we could find for these people and try to get them involved into different servicing, like he said, even back to school, for some of them to learn a little bit more, that they could come out and be. But as a town, we can help them, I guess. But as of more than that, I don't really know until we get to see case by case, I guess.
Thank you very much. Candidate Tsubushi.
I think one of the focuses of council and moving forward is what really is our council mandate. And I empathize with the marginalized people in town, I mean, unfortunately. But I think the role of council in that portion, and we'll speak more so for the mayor or on his behalf, is the lobbying force and that portion of council's mandate. We do not control social services other through some funding models through the DSAP and stuff like that. And I'm hesitant to get too involved in that, but I think it's important that if it's an issue in our community, that council lobbies on behalf of to the other levels of government to provide that funding and or services that are needed in the community, because we can't be everything to everybody. When I first took council, our mandate was water, sewer, roads. I mean, that was basically it. When the Harris government came over, we became the social service provider for the area. And I'm not a true believer in that property taxes or your money you pay for property taxes goes to fund that. That is a social responsibility that's on everybody, and that's what should be funded through your income tax.
Thank you very much, Candidate Tsubushi. Up next, Candidate Cross. Microphone, please.
What I find interesting about the question is it's Northern Employment Works. You've identified the barriers. So it's almost like, what do you think should be done about it? Like, you've got to give us ideas, because we want to help, but definitely programs, that's what it sounds like. And it sounds like we also have to start working backwards. This is a systemic problem. Is it got something to do with the community that they're growing up with, their education system that they're growing up with? So I find it difficult for council, except to be very supportive, but unless you can give us something more.
Thank you very much. Candidate Skorczynski?
Thanks for the question, Pinky. I'd like to look at it from the lens of my daily job as a teacher. I think at our schools in town, we're seeing more and more of these families come to town, and we see these families that have struggled with education in the past, that struggle with just simple things like getting their kids to school. So they clearly have issues going on in the household that are preventing even something as simple as that from going on. So I can only imagine what they deal with in terms of finding work. So I think number one there is much like we do is to educate them, let them know what is available in town. Do these people even know when they come to town what is available? What are the skills you have that we can match you with in town? So whether it's creating mentorship programs with some of our businesses in town, whether it's approaching our small businesses, whether it's working hand in hand with you guys to pair them with those people that they can talk to a little bit more. And I'd like to also play off of Greg and the trade show in just those opportunities for them to network with people and have the chance to see what is available out there. And then, and it may be a far-reaching hope, but maybe talking with Lakehead University and talking with Conn College and Sioux College and these places and seeing if it's possible to set up some sort of a program where these people can get the proper training they need and then come back to our communities as trained, skilled workers, as opposed to somebody that we're hoping to just get by and they can really contribute to what we have as a community.
Thank you very much. Candidate Skorczynski. Dr. Newberry, question.
Yeah, thanks so much, Al. Thank you to all of you for standing for candidacy. Michelle Lajeunesse and I are both here as healthcare providers, and I just want to celebrate for a moment how fortunate we are to have Michelle as one of the lovely young professionals that we've recruited to the community to support services here. We have two questions. I'll start, and I'm going to keep it targeted and brief. From my perspective as a family physician, every June, I hear patients coming into the office saying, what am I going to do when the pool closes? 10 weeks without the pool, my arthritis is terrible, my lung condition is terrible, how will I get through the summer without the pool? So Chris, I'm going to ask this question of you because clearly you've thought a lot about recreation services, and I wonder about whether you have an idea for ways that we can better enable our services to stay open, to serve our citizens through more of the year than we're currently able to do.
Can you hear that? Did you hear that question? No problem? Okay. Chris? Candidate Skorczynski.
Thanks for the question, Sarah, and I'm glad that I'm the rec person around here a little bit. I think a big crux of that question would come to the Active Living Center. I think the ability to have a facility that could run 12 months a year and provide those facilities for 12 months of the year, I think it would be a huge part of the debate around that living center. I know I've got 2 kids who love being at the pool. I enjoy being at the pool. To see it close like that for 2 months and not really know why it's closing, I would certainly want that to get out to our public as to why is it closed for 2 months. Well, we hear that it's maintenance. Well, is it possible to do it in week stretches through the year? Is that something that we can look at where instead of closing for 2 full months, you know, maybe we close over Christmas and that's a week. So maybe that's an option, and just looking at what are some of those other options that are out there. I would love to be able to put an outdoor pool in Marathon. Unfortunately, that's probably not the most likely scenario. But I think if I could put it one way, I think connecting it to the Active Living Center and really looking at that as how do we offer these services year-round for people and not have to have them miss out on it.
Okay, before we go to Michelle, I'm going to open up the floor now to other candidates that would like to answer that question. Feel free. Candidate Sabushi?
As being an active member or user of the pool, I know it seems like there's no rhyme or reason behind it, but we have done studies on it. I understand that even myself, I would like to use the pool therapeutically during those times. I think one of the things that we can do or council can explore is reciprocal agreements. We have reciprocal agreements with the public school for usage. We have it with some other things, and it wouldn't be something for us and WSIB for some of those things to have reciprocal agreements for the therapeutic use of it. If we could get some agreements like that in place, then it would offset the need or to close it, because it comes down to basically financing on those issues and usage. So I mean, I think that's one thing that you can explore moving forward. But again, these are ideas that I commend you for asking at this position, but I think it's the ideas we need to hear during our budget deliberations so that we can consider those things as part of it, okay? Because
right.
unfortunately, our budget deliberations is 2 people.
Thank you very much, candidate Sabushi. Anybody else want to chime in on that question? Can you again? Go ahead.
Sorry, it sparked an idea. And this kind of goes back to what I mentioned in my first little bit is, from where I stand, I'm never a fan of automatically writing something off because of the cost of it. I think there's so much more that is a benefit that comes from some of those things. So I think to say that, well, we have to close it for those 2 months because it costs money, I think is a really short-sighted way to look at it. So that'd be one of the first things I'd want to look at is, instead of closing it because it costs something, how can we recoup that cost? And I love Kelly's idea of those reciprocal agreements that could help to do some of that. Or, you know, whether it's a grant from somewhere or looking into some of those things that won't make us revert to just losing money and can still keep it open.
Thank you so much. Michelle Lajeunesse, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. As some of you may know, the Healthy Kids Community Challenge was an initiative that promotes the health of children. So that was an initiative that's been going on for the last 4 years. But unfortunately, the funding for that initiative has ended on September 30th. And as part of our community's support towards the Healthy Kids Community Challenge, so their mission, their vision, we formed a Healthy Kids community in Marathon, and that community is made up of a lot of different representatives from local organizations. And our committee has decided to continue meeting regularly, although the funding for the Healthy Kids Community Challenge has ended. So my question to you is, as potential town councillors, how you plan to support our Healthy Kids Community Challenge work, and how you plan to support the healthy growth and development of the children in our community.
Is this for all candidates, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. Shauna?
Can I just ask who your funding was through initially?
It was through the government, like the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care.
Okay, well, first off, I would say we'd immediately support you with looking for sources of other funding. There's so many different things out there, FedNor, NHFC, Trillium. A lot of these places may not, I don't know what your budget is like, but definitely part of my job as EDO in Mobert, I constantly write proposals for funding. And I'm Googling, I'm researching who's got money, what are they giving out, what are the reasons for it. So definitely supporting you in looking for other funding and accessing that money is something I would do. And seeing, I guess, depending on your budget, going through it, seeing how the town can support you in the short term and definitely in the long term, looking for kind of a more long-term solution for your funding issues.
Candidate Gingras?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would agree with helping looking for funding and partnering and supporting looking for funding, as well as looking at different items at budget time potentially. If there was certain budget items that you guys had, you know, through your committee decided this is what we want to see in Marathon, bringing those items up at budget time and deliberating on whether those were something that that the town, the council at the time could help with. And the other thing is we could also just partner on education. As I mentioned earlier, we just took on the theater. We brought in healthy snacks. Michelle actually met with us to help us choose our snacks. We've got our silver part shelf that is just healthy snacks that's been approved. So just education to other businesses and into the schools. I think the town and council could potentially partner with the Healthy Kids on those kinds of avenues as well.
Candidate Valance?
Well, Michelle, first of all, I want to say that I respect you and I commend the organization for moving forward without the funding regardless. That's exactly what we need in our community, resilience and someone who is willing to put your head down and hit the pavement when you need to do that hard work. What I would say, like Chris mentioned, it goes, I think, beyond money too. Talking about budget and stuff like that, I think it's important for town council and for the constituents of Marathon to really ramp up their civic engagement and spread the word, participate in the events, and be an active voice at your guys' meeting and stuff like that. So not only the budget monetary component of it, but really being active and vocal and celebrating your guys' success. So.
Candidate Lowndes.
I agree with your program and all that, and I would say that would be something that council could like to get in behind, and it'd have to go through the budgeting program, but I could not see any reason to not try to help out as much as possible.
Candidate Tsubushi.
That program was brought under our council, and we supported it at the time. We were the ones who applied for the application, and it funded through us. I commend you for keeping the program going. I would say that we would lobby the provincial government to sustain the funding, but given the current government, I don't see that being a possibility. And that's the reality of the change of government. I think from our perspective, we have resources in our community. We have a recreation, director that you should be working with and you should be contacting. But again, I'm going to stress this to everybody who's here, successful candidate or not, please remain involved with your ideas. And I think that's important. Even if I'm not elected, I will still be, harping the mayor or whoever it will be about my views on the community. And I think it's important that we all do that. So if you have this program moving forward, talk to the recreation department, talk to the CAO. They're more than willing to listen, and they're the ones who will bring it up to council, right? And they were the ones who will be able to discuss it and see where we can come to a solution, see where we can assist you, and it may not always be money. It may be lobbying, it may be letters to whoever ministers, but that's the other role of council that I think that is misled. And I think it's the other role of the citizens that you have a voice, not just in voting, but every time there's a council meeting, every time we hold an open house, you have engagement. So please get engaged.
Thank you very much. Candidate Cross. Mike, please.
Mike, please. All right. Yeah, well, what I find interesting is I would want to know why it got canceled. Is it not working? And I need to hear from you for your ideas to council, because you're the one who's right on the front lines for what we can do about it. I mean, is it just a case of money, or is it more, I don't know what to call, more a social issue? Is there junk food in the schools itself? Is there junk food being sold at stores? Can we do something to decrease kids, not purposely, but discourage kids from doing that, other than coming up with money if the money isn't available? Thank you.
Candidate Skorczynski.
So Michelle, I'd like to echo what some of the other people have said, and obviously off the top of the list would be budget and grants that are out there. But I think a big part of that, as well as I personally wasn't aware that it was still going, and it's been sort of revamped as something else. So I think number one might be awareness for people, is just knowing that that is still out there, it's still happening, this is still what we're doing. And then I think tied to that, and Kelly touched on it a little bit, I think maybe making some partnerships within the community and not seeing yourselves as this lone identity, partnering with the schools, partnering with the rec director, and seeing if they've got some revenue streams that maybe you don't have access to, but they may have access to. And they can get around what council may or may not be able to do and still find that money for you. And I think on top of that is just being creative, fundraisers. There's some larger organizations out there that may be worth accessing that maybe have never been thought about. So maybe it's just a matter of having a think tank or something like that with council members to see, what can we do? What's our next steps?
Thank you very much. Candidate Skorczynski. Any other questions? Jimmy Collins.
Jim Collins. Been resident here for 36 and a half years. I retired about just over 2 years ago. And one of the things I've noticed in town now is a need for speed and noise. And that goes down to perceived or real, whether it's school buses, noisy diesel trucks, cars, snowmobiles, and ATVs. I think there's a real problem in the town for speed or perceived. Would the candidates support lowering our town-wide speed limit to 40 kilometers an hour, 30 kilometers an hour in the school zones or by parks?
All right, so this is for all candidates, Jim?
Yes.
All right. Candidate Fedoruk.
Just trying to think how I'm going to say this, but yeah, I definitely agree with you that there is a lot of excessive speeding in the community, and I definitely agree that it could be looked into. I'm not sure, is that a municipal decision-making? Yeah, speed limits? Okay. So yeah, definitely it would be something to bring to council, and it's definitely something I would support looking into, seeing the pros and cons. I mean, I don't see the pro of being able to drive a bit faster. There's definitely pros to slowing people down, so it's something I would consider looking into and supporting.
Reducing the speed limit to 40 across town, 30 in school zones, Jim?
Yes, school zone, park.
Candidate Gingras.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's lots of children in our community and they're playing at parks or they're playing outside, which is always very nice to see. Unfortunately, some people don't follow the posted limits as is, so I don't know if lowering it would make a difference. Hopefully it would. I would be open to looking at it and looking at, with the police, at looking at enforcing those speed limits that are already posted as well, and making sure those are being posted. And I'd encourage you, if you do see issues, to reach out to the police and make sure that you're letting them know when you see this happening, so that it can be stopped right away, instead of becoming an issue and someone getting hurt or something happening.
Candidate Valance.
I want to open with, Jim, are you sure you're retired? Because I see you working pretty hard around town.
Well, for the first year I noticed it. I actually still noticed it because I'm around town, visible in town all the time.
Cool. With that being said, I do think the plan to lower the speed limit to 40 and 30 would be fairly drastic, but I am a team player, and if that is what town council moving forward would support, I would definitely work with the elected candidates and come to an agreement.
Candidate Lowndes.
Yes, I could see the 40 speed limit, because right now your main streets when you're coming into town are all down to 40, and then you turn off and go where the children are playing and speed up to 50. Like, it should be, if the main streets are 40, they should be 40. And our school zones and park zones, they should be re-looked at, and maybe a few more spots added to the safety zones.
Candidate Zabushi.
Yeah, we instituted the community safety zones to address the problem, or the issue of excessive speed or speeds in those issues. I think one of the first things we should do is talk to the police force. I mean, we have more than ample number of police officers in there, and enforcement would be the #1 issue of the existing limits right now. I truly believe that in the skateboard park area, we should have some speed bumps in that area to deter. Given that big, long, straight stretch, that's where the majority of excessive speed would probably occur, more so from experience at the curling club. But I think those are the things first. So first is #1 would be enforcement and working with our police services board. And second off is identifying areas where speed bumps would be appropriate.
Candidate Cross. You got it.
I got it. I do like the idea in principle, because I actually still drive 40 most of the time everywhere anyway. But we did add a bunch of signs saying 50 in the last couple of years, so they'd have to be removed, and that's always an added expense. The only question I have is, we want to be in harmony with the Ontario Highway Act as well, so we need to look into that, just to look at it at the feasibility of doing that, only because, you know, when other people come to town, they're going to think, oh, it's just regularly 50 and not drive 40, and then of course the police enforcing that. And but I do like it in principle. I do like it, but it would have to be discussed.
Candidate Skorczynski.
Jim, I can kind of echo your concerns. I sit most nights listening to the TV, and I can hear up and down the street outside my house, and I've got concerns about that too. Just a couple things. I don't want to echo too much of what people said, but certainly working with the police services board and having them be more vigilant around that. But I do think there's something to be said for the psychology of speed limits. Most of us get on the highway and 90 means 108. So if you make a sign around town 30 and it means people go 40, in the end game, have we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish? If we post it at 40, does it mean 50? 50 means 60? Psychologically, maybe the best way to tackle it as opposed to trying to actually ticket people. But I think a combination of different things is worthwhile, but I certainly would support your idea of having lower posted sign limits. And I do think more community safe zones and making them extremely visible to people. Neon paint, flashing lights, you know, make sure people know that those things are coming and have them slow down.
Thank you very much. Questions?
I have a comment there. The one of the things we have to remember, we're a small town. It doesn't take us any time to get anywhere. We might go from 5 minutes to 7 minutes. Big deal.
All right. Any other questions? Becky Johnson.
First of all, my sincere thanks for putting your names out. It takes a lot of courage to do so, and it's really nice to see so many people interested in our community. As many of you know, I sit on the library board. I'm the chair of the board at this present time. And like the town, we've had some ups and downs and some learning curves and a lot about learning our finances and how to work within them. In the town of Marathon, we've got about 33% of the people who have library cards, and a lot of people know what kind of services that we have and the amount of programming that we have offered at the library. A lot of people come in the summertime for tourism, free Wi-Fi and those kind of services, emailing and that kind of stuff. I just want to know how much you are willing to support our library. We come in here every year and we ask for funding because we are funded majorly through the municipality. It's a struggle, and we always recognize that it's a budgetary thing. We've worked really hard the past few years to get our budget down and into line. Just wondering what kind of support you would offer the library from where you sit now.
Becky, for all candidates?
All candidates.
Okay. Candidate for Lurk, please.
I think the library is a really great place, and it's really integral to the community. You do a lot of great things there, and I know was it last year when your budget had been slashed a bit, and you guys did a really amazing job improving what you do for the community, and I don't feel like that was your job to prove, but you guys do amazing things, and I definitely don't want to see anything happen to the library. If anything, I want to just see it keep growing. I believe things like NOHFC, I believe, has a marketing intern position, things like that the community can take advantage. That would not just be for council or the town itself, but for things like recreation and for the library and the museum and other entities that kind of fall under our umbrella. So I would definitely support things like that, support keeping your budget the same, or, I mean, depending on...
So you support the library?
Definitely.
Chantel.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank the library board for always being so present at our budget meetings. You guys are one of the groups that are always there and letting us know what your concerns are and what your needs are. So that's very important and very helpful for us. I'm very supportive of the library. I'm actually doing my master's right now. I should be done at the end of June in library sciences. So I am very supportive of initiatives you guys are taking for sure.
Candidate Valance?
Very quick, I am very supportive of the library. They actually assisted me in their makerspace to make my campaign sign, so thank you to Tamara, Mitchell, Krista. And one thing I do want to also include is the library is always the first point of contact for someone who's new to the community. So we get a lot of word-to-mouth referrals from the library for people looking for employment into our LBS services, our employment services. So 110%, I definitely support the library moving forward.
Candidate Lowndes.
I support you 100%. You are doing a good job, and when you come to council, it'll be handled the same way as it always has been. But I'm for you.
Candidate Tabushi.
Being that you're a council rep on the board, I've always supported it. My family has always been avid readers. We've always supported it. I like the way that the library is moving away from just paper and books and moving into the avenues of technology and programming. So I'm always an advocate for you at the BARC or at the council chamber, and I will always continue to be. So.
Candidate Cross.
Short answer, yes.
Candidate Skorczynski.
100% Becky. I've seen firsthand this summer how diversified the library has become, which I wasn't aware of. And again, it goes back to my idea of cost versus benefit. If we have the money there to keep it running, we need to. And I think shameless plug, the things that Mitchell Hatton does in that building, I would really hate to lose a guy like that because we don't fund you guys properly for it. Not to take anything away from
Well
the
said.
rest of the staff, but I think we all know that Mitchell runs the show over there. And I would really hate to see what he offers that building be squashed because we worry about dollars instead.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Yep.
Hi, my name is Tom Wilson. Later this month, Ontario government and the Canadian government is legalizing marijuana. And in a short period of time after legalization, communities will have an opportunity to determine whether sales will be allowed within the community on a private shop basis or not. I'd like to know from all candidates what their feeling is unable to have a shop that sells cannabis locally.
Do you want a pot shop in town? Candidate Fedoric.
I'll give you a kind of a short and long answer. Yes, I do support it. That's my personal opinion. I feel that there's a lot less harmful benefits, or not benefits, but harmful things that go along with cannabis as opposed to alcohol. There's a lot of studies out there. My long answer would be more an issue that's that taboo within a community needs to have a little more community engagement, and that kind of has to be a community decision. So I feel like there needs to be some information sessions, a lot of education, and as much community outreach and engagement as you can get to gather people's opinions on what they think should be in their community. It will be available online. That's always an option. If the town decides as a whole that that's how they want to keep it, then I'm going to support what the people think and what the people want.
Candidate Gingras.
I would agree. I'd want a public opinion on it and know what everybody else is thinking. My personal opinion is I am for it. And that's because I think if we have the shop here, it might deter some of the illegal sales, hopefully. If we don't have a shop here, we're not going to stop marijuana from coming into town. That's impossible. We all already know that. So why not have a legal means to buy that?
Candidate Valance.
Well, although this is a burning topic, there's two things we need to consider when we look at this kind of opportunity. First of all, job creation. It would create employment opportunities in our community, so that's a positive right there. A negative though, and it's something I deal with every day, is pre-employment components for medium to large size industry. How would that look when people are looking to pass drug tests, physicals, and criminal records when looking to gain employment on the mine site, a mill, anywhere like that? So two things that we just need to keep into consideration would be, yes, awesome for job creation, but how is that all going to play out with, in conjunction to Bill 148, pre-employment standards and the workforce? So,
Candidate Lowndes.
I would say it should be brought to a more or less a town vote and just see how strong the town is against it. But on the other hand, may as well have the shop here, or else people will drive to Terrace Bay and buy it, or they'll drive to Manitouwadge or White River. If it's legal, it's no different than telling LCBO they can't sell liquor here in town. So it's lesser of all evils. May as well have the store and make the money.
Candidate Tabushi.
I think our control as a council will be to designate where the businesses can locate, and I think that's the thing. For us to think that for us not selling it or not allowing it to be sold in Marathon will have any effect on the consumption is silly, I'll say. It's in our community right now. It's been in the community since inception, we'll say, in one form or another. So for us to mandate or control where it can be sold, away from school zones, in a controlled environment where they will be asking for ID, they will be doing all those things, is important for that legalized step of the sale of cannabis in the community.
Candidate Cross.
Hi. Yes, I support the idea of cannabis, but then I kind of think it is supposed to be a drug, and we do have drugstores, so I was thinking it could be incorporated into a drugstore, like it could be controlled that way. As well, we have to think that it is a cigarette as well. Like most of the time you smoke it. So I'd want it to be treated discreetly like cigarettes are. So certainly ideas to get from the public on this would help to move further on it. Thanks.
Candidate Skorczynski.
I'd like to echo what most people have said, Tom, that there's nothing we can do about it. It's going to happen. So there's the benefit of the cost to it, but I'd also like to kind of go a different route and look at we're a healthy community now. We're supposed to be trying to portray this to our youth, and our opinion poll of the day, shameless plug to Al, was met pretty firmly by a lot of people about what kind of an impact it's going to have on the larger community. You know, people walking around town, and is that what our community turns into? So I think there's some other things that certainly need to be brought back to the public, but I'd echo what Kelly says about having a really stiff control over where we put it, and really trying to kind of rein it in as best as we can.
Thank you, Candidate Skorczynski. The question I asked this morning, the Beano Insurance Opinion Poll question, was after October 17th, the provincial government has allowed that you will be able to smoke pot wherever cigarettes are being smoked legally. Do you agree with that? That was my question. I had 389 responses with over 280 saying no, they don't agree with that. So just to put that in perspective, that was what the question was this morning, and that's what's going to happen after October 17th. You'll be able to smoke behind the arena on my front lawn, having a joint. Well, that's where they are. I'm not lying, you know. That's where they are. And then they'll throw their butt there, and then Buddy will go by and pick it up and start smelling it anyways. Any other questions we have this morning? Jim.
I'm sorry, Al. On that response to that, if you don't mind.
Oh, you go ahead,
and I'll
Kelly.
open it up to every other candidate too. Is that, I truly disagree that, and I'm a smoker, but I truly disagree that they are holding it in the same concept of cigarettes.
They are. That was just
I know
Fidelli.
that.
Fidelli said it this morning too in the
And
legislature.
I am adamantly opposed to this. This would be like me, not that it's never happened, but walking downtown with a beer in my hand.
Well, yeah, Kelly, this isn't a debate. We're just asking.
Yeah.
The question earlier.
So
okay.
I think in response to about the control of it, I would lobby the government.
Kelly,
Sorry.
you've had it, okay? All right? No, I'm not, being mean. We had the question, all right? Mr. Wilson asked the question. We all had the responses. Jim, you have another point, or is this a question or a comment, or?
I'll have a comment later on, but this is a question.
Okay, well, before you have a seat, if you don't mind. Is there anybody else that has another question? Yes, Tamara.
So I see a lack of cultural events in Marathon, and I want
Give us an example. What do you define as a cultural event?
Music concert,
Okay.
things like that. I mean, they are at the schools, but open to the general public. Yeah.
Okay.
Art shows. So I would like to know, what are some of the things that you think need to happen to create the change for our cultural community?
Tomorrow for all candidates?
Yes.
All right. Candidate Fedor, please.
I feel something like this could get started off with a good kind of focus group or a committee dedicated to facilitating things like this, something that the council would support. And it could be a group of just town individuals, people who are interested in these things, perhaps somebody from the school, somebody from council, somebody from administration, people from different groups around town, different businesses that are willing to support events like this. But people need to come together to brainstorm and come up with ideas, and I would definitely even be interested in being a part of such a committee. And as a councillor, I would definitely fully support that, and think it's a wonderful idea.
Candidate Gingras.
Yes, I would agree. I think a board is the first place to start to bring up those ideas. I'm very supportive of culture. I have directed a couple of the dinner theaters when they were being held, as well as when I was a museum intern working on bringing cultural movies to the movie theater again. That is a potential that could happen again, but I think the start is to bring in a steering committee that could really bring in those ideas and suggest what could happen. and how the town could support it, whether that comes through budget or through use of facilities or however that might look.
Candidate Valance.
Two things, Tamara. I definitely support culture, the arts, all that stuff. Within my internship with the MEDC, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce and Bictagon Nishnabik, I was instrumental in the development and the reopening of the VIC Center. Just before I finished my internship, the doors opened, so that really promoted First Nation, Indigenous culture, the arts and crafts from the people who are creating stuff locally here. And I believe there was, I want to say, anywhere from 40 to 60 artisans displaying their crafts and arts out at the VIC Center. Second, when it comes to the business awards, we are really big on pushing for local photography that we then turn to canvases that we auction off to the people in attendance and really display and highlight the local photography here in town.
Candidate Lowndes.
I'm for the culture setup, but I don't think that's actually up to council to get it going. I think if you guys have it going, come to us for help, and that's where council will come in. But I don't think it's part of the council that should be sitting down and getting it off the ground. I would say we'll help you when you get it up, and then we can help you carry it on.
Candidate Zabushi.
Yeah, one of the reasons one of the opportunities we had when we redid the theater to digital was the Film Society, and it's still within the, I believe, within the contract we have with the users that they still have an opportunity to display those films. I was a supporter of the Arts Council when you brought it forward through the library board, but I do believe that from our facility, our portion of council, we will provide the spaces because we have the big spaces that you can hold these events, and we've provided you that opportunity to the Arts Council to utilize those spaces when you needed it. And those are the things I think we can provide for you. We can't get it running, okay, but we have the bigger spaces other than the schools where you can do those things. And we do have reciprocal agreements with the schools for usage. So that's how I think the community or the council can move forward with this. And again, we have a rec director who has access to those facilities, and it's within their recommendation to move it forward. So please work with the Recreation Department in order to move those things forward.
Candidate Cross.
Yeah, of course I'm interested in cultural events, any kind of events, but I kind of see those events as sort of an evolution over time because the volunteers burn out and they don't want to do it anymore, and you need new people coming in. So it's constantly a cycle. And bringing those events back, again, that we need public involvement definitely to give us ideas because everybody wants this to come back eventually. And I was actually thinking if it comes down to making it more sweet for the volunteers, like perhaps council could approve something like giving them a discount at the rec center, for example, to make it just easier to do this sort of thing without getting burnt out. Thank you.
Candidate Skorczynski.
Just a couple of things, Tamara, on top of that. I think certainly the idea of putting together some sort of a committee to work hand in hand with the town would be a great start. But a couple things that maybe the council can do is work as a go-between to find you guys, as Kelly had said, spaces, find you guys promoters, companies that can come to town, all those different things. So maybe the volunteer burnout isn't as bad if we're able to maybe take some of that pressure off of the volunteers. And then just a couple of things I jotted down here is maybe some new signage around town that displays the cultural diversity that we have in this community. Over the last few years, we've had a lot of different groups of people come to our town. We've had Indian families, we've had our Syrian family, our Aboriginal people are becoming much more prominent. Our Francophone community is much more prominent. So maybe making sure people around town are aware of that. And just maybe helping with the advertising and the marketing of your events. The connections that council's gonna have will probably exceed what a small committee might have. So just some of those little things that we may not be able to take the whole thing for you, but help where we can help.
Thank you very much, Candidate Skorczynski. We're going to go till 9 o'clock, another 13 minutes. Brenda Wiskin.
Arguably, community engagement is at a low point, I think. Many people would say that unless it's an activity in town that's maybe centered around little kids. We get a big turnout for those things. People bring their kids and it's great. But there are other things in town perhaps that aren't getting as much attention. I'm wondering what each person's thought is and how to try and increase community involvement.
Give us an example, Brenda. Jumpstart was huge.
Well, 'cause it's for kids.
Yeah, no, I'm just an example, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay, all right.
But
More community engagement. How would you prompt that? How would you spur that? Candidate Fedoruk.
Yeah, so this is something I struggle with on a daily basis in my job. Most of my job is based on community engagement, and I work closely with the comprehensive community planner and different departments within the community. And getting people to come out is always a struggle. I had to cancel an event today because only of one registration. So we do a lot of things, and we have to come up with creative ideas, whether it's door prizes or providing a free lunch, or we hire people to go door to door and put flyers on people's doors, making Facebook groups, having contests, surveys. There's just so many different ways, and you really have to get involved, and really engagement is difficult. You think it's easy to put something out there on Facebook or on the website, and you assume people are going to be interested and want to give their input, but they're not. And so there's different ways. You have to look in your budget for things like lunches or dinners or door prizes. But I do think it's important, and it does work a lot in the long run.
Candidate Jingra.
I think you have a room full of people who are engaged here. You have 8 candidates who are running, plus everyone who's attended here is obviously very interested in what's going on in the town. Beyond that, I don't have a solution. I wish I did, because I agree that there's I've also done events or have gone to events where there is a low turnout, unfortunately. I don't have a solution though, but I am happy to brainstorm or to help with ideas.
Candidate Valance.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of focus primarily on volunteerism and the burnout. I don't think there's enough of a focus on civic engagement from the constituents, everyone showing up to events, going out, really celebrating the hard work that these either service providers or non-for-profit organizations are putting on. One thing that I was super passionate about in the past that kind of took a back seat due to me becoming the president of the Chamber of Commerce was Ignite, the Young Professionals Network in town, and doing events and stuff like that to bring out the young professionals and show that there is a way of life in Marathon. And this organization was open to the public, young, mature, even older, even more older than mature, but open to young professionals were the people who were putting the event on. But it was for the community as a whole, and that's something there's been conversations within the chamber that we're looking at reigniting. So we're super excited about that, and we just hope everyone here in this room tonight would be excited to come out to all the events.
Candidate Lowndes.
Snow kickers.
There is no real answer to that. I can't foresee one anyhow, but I think a lot of times, a lot of events that have gone on, I've heard about them 2 days later or a day later. A lot of times it's just not, I know they put it on the radio, they put it here, they put it there, but like a lot of people, after 10 o'clock, the radio gets shut off. I don't know why.
What?
After 10 o'clock.
At night?
But you know
after
what I
my
mean.
show.
So, a lot of people don't hear about a lot of the events that are going on until, I know I've gone to the Moose Hall. They had a band in there, a year or 2 years ago, Johnny Cash and all the things. And it was a really good show, and we were talking about it after, and 4 or 5 people that I was talking to never even heard about it. You know, like, I don't know how you get all the advertising out there, but it's a lot of times, it's not that people don't want to be involved, it's a lot of people don't really know that it's out there to be done.
Candidate Zabushi.
The access or information getting out there, I think twofold. We have an older community that really doesn't engage in the Facebook or whatever it may be, and it's paramount that that message gets out in the old way, I'll say, in a sense there. So I think that's one of one reason there too. When we're talking about engagement, from my perspective, I think about citizen engagement, and Greg's mention on it, is your responsibility as a citizen to let council know what's going on. I think it's your responsibility to move forward, and I know I'm harping this, and if anything, I'll make somebody passionate enough to come vote me out, that's fine. But the idea behind it is, you know, we can only do so much. The community, because we're too small, we can't hire people to do things for us, so the volunteers have to go out and do it. And I know volunteer burnout, I know that's always an issue, and we wrestle with how do we promote volunteer of the year or whatever it may be. But again, there's no magic answer. But again, I like to see the youth here, because at least this shows me they want to get involved, okay? And that's good, because maybe it is my time to move aside.
Okay, I'm just going to say something. I was in Terrace Bay, Scriber, and Manitouwadge last week attending these functions. The question came up in every community, and it's the same issue. So it's not just a marathon issue. It's right across the board. Candidate Cross.
Okay, I hear that problem, and I understand adults are just like teenagers. They have a mind of their own. And so if they don't want to engage, they won't engage. However, I think what it comes down to sometimes is the people who want to post what they want, their event coming up, they just don't have time to do it. And likewise, as it's been mentioned, we're finding out 2 days after the fact that something's happened. We're like, oh. And I can tell you firsthand, looking on the marathon.ca town calendar, well, it's rather sparse to nothing's on there, and I really want to know what's going on in town. So that's why I had mentioned in my introduction speech that some kind of a marathon app, you know, you could put on your cell phone. It's kind of like Facebook, you know, you go to the bargain shop and all that, but maybe it would be easier for people who want to post events, likewise easier for people who are interested to acquire that information. And I'm going to steal this great idea from our wonderful mayor, Rick Dumas, and that was a digital sign. Thank you.
You're not going to introduce me this time?
I'm trying to figure out the digital sign, so. Go ahead, candidate Skorczynski.
I do want to start, Brenda, by saying I do think it is council's job. I think as representatives of this community, it is our job to make people aware of what's going on. Whatever means that takes, that's a different story. I don't think that should be on the public to get out to the public. I think that's part of our role. I just wonder if, like we did 20 years ago when we dropped in population by 2,000 people, if it's time to rethink what our engagement is in our town. The fact that probably 100 or so people showed up for the opening of Peninsula Manor today, is that not engagement? The fact that every day I went down to pull on that darn tug, vehicle after vehicle after vehicle after vehicle was showing up to see what was going on. We have so many things going on in our community. Everyone in the room can speak to so little time you have available to them. We try to attend as many as we can. Unfortunately, we're going to pick and choose the ones most interest to us. So maybe that's what it comes down to, is do we rethink what it means to be engaged? The fact that we do have 100 or 200 people attending an event, is that enough? Or does there need to be more? Do we need to go back to the days where the music festival had 900 people? I'm not sure if that's possible anymore.
Thank you very much, candidate Skorczynski. I appreciate patience. Mr. Collins?
So the question from this young lady here and from Brenda kind of leads into mine. Plus, it's a plug for next year. Is the 75th anniversary of the town of Marathon. There's an active committee going on. We actually, a set of letters went out today. I got it in, my son got it in the mail, asking how we can, how can you local groups get involved in what can they take on for a project in that. So I guess my question is, what can each of the candidates, what can we count on the candidates to do to support the 75th anniversary celebrations next year? What can they go out and show their presence, or what they can even take a charge of?
Oh, there you go.
And if anybody's interested, the next meeting's on
Okay,
October
Jim.
16th.
That was a good plug. All right, so what do you have to offer for the 75th anniversaries next year? Candidate Fedoruk.
Are you asking as an individual or as a council? What would you like to see?
Individual.
So personally, I'd love to be involved. I'm not sure in what capacity and what you need. I'm the type of person who will kind of show up and ask what you need, and spread myself wherever I'm needed the most. As a council, I'm just going to add that. I feel like there should be some engagement. And just as a group, the council should do something fun and engaging, perhaps like a karaoke night where we each get to go up and sing a song and the crap out of each other.
Mayor Dumas. Mayor Dumas.
With, as Mayor Dumas as the top billing on the show. But I feel that it's important for the council to go out in front of the community and do fun things like that and show them that we're supportive of events like the 75th anniversary.
Candidate Gingras.
Yeah, so I saw that letter today as well. I noticed a couple of your events. You were looking at potentially cultural movie nights, actually, and I was thinking we would try to fit that in with the theater. No promises because we're very strict on what we're allowed to play during the week, unfortunately. I would try to be involved way and volunteer for other events if needed. I love volunteering at different events, and yeah.
Well said.
I think the historical
Jim, please let them finish the questions. All right, thank you. Candidate Valance.
Okay, perfect. Well, events, I love events. That's my wheelhouse. So using my, right now I'm the current president of the Chamber of Commerce. I spearhead, like I said, the business awards and the trade show. So using my network and my other hats within the community, I might not be the president next year, but I will still actively be participating in that organization. Maybe we could look at doing the trade show on that weekend or the business awards on that weekend so that there's a value added event happening during the celebration. So,
Candidate Lowndes.
I would definitely like to be part of it. And when did you say your next meeting is?
16th.
6th of October? Okay. I can't promise that I'll take on anything, but I definitely will be here for the 75th anniversary, hopefully.
Candidate Sabushi.
One of the novel things when we celebrated the 50th was the marathon coin, and I'd like to see if we can explore that again there. It wasn't a great revenue source, but I mean, it did commemorate the 50th anniversary, so I'd like to see council support that. Personally, like I was here for the 50th, wasn't here for the 25th, but I think my personal thing, I'll be sure I'll serve enough beer for the weekend. Other than that, any other community group or things I'll move forward. Hopefully I'll be part of the library board and we can move forward with that and whatever. But I think, sorry, the commemorative coin I think would be something would be nice to see to come back.
Candidate Cross.
Well, yeah, I want to show up, definitely. And I was thinking being a member of the fire department, maybe I could swing a fire department tour or maybe a ride on a fire truck. That's always fun, at least to look at. And that's about it. Thanks.
Dave Skorczynski.
Well, seeing as I'm on the historical board, I'm already taken. Otherwise, I'd certainly offer my support in terms of things I already partner with. I can speak for myself that I just don't have the time to be a part of another thing as much as I would love to, but you can always provide muscle.
There you are. That concludes the Q&A for this evening. It's 9 o'clock. I got all candidates now to ask. They have 1 minute to summarize what they had to say. So starting off again with candidate Fedoruk.
I just want to thank everyone for such great questions. I learned as much as I probably informed my ideas. I'd like to see this level of engagement, and we talked a bit about engagement, but I feel like with people like you coming out, you're going to hold the council accountable for what you want to see in this community, and I strongly believe that you should. Thank you for the amazing questions. Again, if I'm elected, my main focus will be back the MEDC and an economic development officer to the community. A lot of the things you discussed today would fall under an MEDC umbrella. Even Kelly mentioned maybe it's not the mandate of council, but we'd support you. A lot of those things could fall under that umbrella, so I think it's really important for the future of the community. Thank you very much.
Gingras.
Yeah, I think I've covered most of my major points tonight. Again, thank you all of you guys for being so engaged and coming out. I'd encourage you, if you didn't get your questions answered tonight, to go look for the candidates around. I'm certainly available to answer other questions or to have discussions if I didn't answer a question to your satisfaction. I'm definitely available for that. And again, thank you for coming out.
Candidate Valance.
Well, Al, I want to thank you first. Candidates, I also want to thank you for being able to be a part of this opportunity with you. Constituents, thank you for coming out. Thank you for the thought-provoking questions. Just a takeaway, my biggest things would be economic sustainability, economic development, in-youth migration, entrepreneurship within young professionals who will then be able to support the aging demographic, a passion for healthcare and education, and again, we just talked about civic engagement. So on October 22nd, please, I would love your support. If you want to know more about me, like my Facebook page, you'll find my phone number. And again, thank you. Vote Balance.
Candidate Lowndes.
Thank you all for coming out, and thanks for the questions. I hope I answered more or less what you wanted to hear. I'm very new at this, so feel free to, whenever you see me, if you have a question, I'm always around. You can ask me what you need to know or what you think you want to know, and can help you out. I would sure like to. Thank you very much, and thank you all. Thank you.
Candidate Sabushi.
Thank you again for attending, and again, I thank the candidates for putting your name forward. You are in for a surprise, but you're in for an adventure if you are elected, and I wish everybody the best of luck. Down a platform what I would like to see, and some of you will agree with it and some of you will disagree with it, and that is your right. But I am only going to be one vote on that council, and I think in the last 21 years we've been able to manage, and through some of the existing councils, to manage a well thought out process on how we perform government. I do believe we need new ideas, and I'm thankful that people are putting their name forward for it. There are openings in the council, and if my seat is one of them, I wish you all the best. I laid out a platform that is looking at user fees as opposed to taxation. It may not be popular, but the idea behind it is that it balances out the payments. We have some properties that pay $800 in taxes, and we have some properties that pay $5,000 in taxes. And we need to balance that out because we all turn on the tap and get water.
Thank you very much. Candidate Cross.
Okay. Hi, thank you for being here, being captive audience. Hi, Mom. All I can say is my focus would be on economics, safety, and recreation. And my two main things that I'm really interested is fishing here in Vaughan, commercially, and looking at Mr. Dumas's idea of having a digital sign to let people know what's going on. And thank you very much.
And candidate Skorczynski.
I'm not going to rehash anything I've said already this evening. I just want to leave you with a quick sum up of who I am. I'm honest to a fault. My parents can attest to that. Sometimes it gets me into trouble, but more often than not, it does lead to progress, and progress is what leads to realizing vision. And I do have a vision for this town moving forward. I plan to be here for quite a while. I'd like to see some of that realized.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for these candidates. In conclusion, I'd like to express my thanks to the town of Marathon, particularly Louise Lees for her hard work in making this evening possible. I always said the hardest politics is municipal politics. You've got an MP that comes in from Ottawa once in a while. An MPP comes and cuts a ribbon once every 3 months. But these are the people you vote in. These are your neighbors. These are your friends. You might argue with them. Sometimes you might not even want to talk to them again. And I've seen it happen in Wawa, where they've run and the kids don't talk to each other anymore because the parents are mad. But you got to remember, after October 22nd, no matter who forms, the politicians, the government here in Marathon, the municipal government, this is who we selected, democracy, and we're going to move forward. I'm so proud to be a resident of Marathon. And I've said this at the other meetings. I love Marathon. You guys have such a great balance. And I've been to almost every council meeting, and I've never seen a mayor and council get along with no dysfunction. They might do it behind doors, they might do it in closed meetings, but that's what it's for. But when they come out here and they're done, and I give full credit to that man over there, what he's gone through in the last 3 years to run this town, he deserves a medal, and that's fantastic. A reminder, advance polls, Thursday, October the 11th, the following Thursday, October the 18th, from noon to 6 Town Hall. Voting day is again Monday, October 22nd. Listen for all the results on CFNO. I just said that. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great evening.